I just found an old short story I wrote probably 20 years ago, maybe. Yeah, it's called A Gothic Tale. That looks backwards. It starts off, A Gothic Tale. The wind drove the rain hard against the castle walls. The fierce lightning flashes brought visions of spectres long dead to his tired wind-swept eyes. I must get out of this storm soon or I'll catch my death. He decided to make for the castle as it was the only shelter around beside the twisted bramble. The castle stood on the top of a tall hill surrounded by dead trees and dense thorny undergrowth. How am I going to get through this? It's like barbed wire. He picked up a long branch from under the tree and began beating his way through the dense bracken. It was all rather strange, really, the sudden change in the weather which 10 minutes ago was clear and crisp. On crossing that tiny bridge, the clouds rolled in and the rain began to fall. Then the lightning struck the bridge, and the only way was forward. A sudden roar and the forked lightning lit up the castle. Quite a sight. But on closer inspection, he saw it was not a ruin, but a working castle with a building, and the roof looked intact. The stained windows with no breaks, the drawbridge lowered and waited for him to cross. As he drew closer to the castle, he found he was going harder. The bushes got sharper and the rain turned to sleet. Torrents of water sloshed down the hillside, making it like a ski run. He found his feet losing their grip and grabbed a branch which was full of thorns and ripped the skin from his left palm, making him release his grip. He lost his balance and fell backward into the sludge and was carried down swiftly, screaming as the bushes ripped his sodden flesh to shreds. He passed out, as you do. He was drifting in the dark recess of his slumber, his mind drifting slowly, with the pleasant sound inside his head. He opened his eyes to the sound of a lonesome flute playing some old forgotten tune, and looked up at the timbered ceilings. He followed it down to the walls, which were covered with creepy tapestries and the large dull broadswords. A painting of a severed head adorned the mantel. He sat up and rubbed his eyes, hoping he was dreaming. He wasn't. It was real. Dun, 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 dun. He swung his legs over the side of the bed and stood on the hard flagstone floor. His hand was bandaged and his head thumped like a set of bongos. A few torches burned on the walls, throwing weird bouncing shadows around the large room. He had never seen such a room. It was huge, as big as a tennis court. Here and there, dotted around the walls, were suits of armour, some that were tiny, as if made for a dwarf or a child. Suddenly a large crashing gong sounded, frightened the life out of him. The large oak door at the far end of the room swung noisily open, letting the light from outside flow in. The shadow of a large person now blocked the light, and he felt a twinge in his rectal region. He waited for this eerie shadow to speak, feeling he would never have to use a laxative again in his life. He didn't have to wait long. The shadow began to move toward him, its large robes rustling softly like velvet. The feet were quiet. Must be wearing his hush puppies. Hope they don't bite. The figure grew nearer and nearer, then stopped 6 feet away from Danny. Is the young master recovered from his ordeal? He spoke in a rather soft voice, much to the joy and relief of Dan. Yeah, feeling no pain. What happened to me? Where did you find me? Let not your mind be troubled. Your story will unfold by and by. As for now, we will suffer the cooking of Leandra, and wine red will be poured to fill our veins and warm our souls. Come, our Lord awaits, and he is the impatient one. Come. Dun, 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 dun. I got my little legs to move and started after this giant. My legs really were too small to keep up, and he soon outdistanced me. He turned one corner, then the next, and then the next. Soon I was lost and on my own, wandering down corridors covered in purple drapes and tapestries of large bloodthirsty wolves with disemboweled children hanging from their gaping, blood-dripping fangs. I was beginning to feel very watery in the bowel area again. "Hello!" I shouted feebly, my own voice scaring me. God, I'm a right tosser. Got as much bottle as an Italian war hero. I tried another shout. "Is anyone about? Anyone? Hello?" Not a dicky bird, not a bloody sinner. The quietness of the place was getting me down, and the sparse light played tricks on my eyes. Up ahead, I thought I saw a large dog lurking in the shadows. But when I reached it, it was nothing more than a trunk. I sat on the trunk and leaned back against the cold stone wall, only to find myself hurtling through the blackness, falling down into a bottomless pit. I landed on something soft and suffered no hurt to my body. I was okay. Well, nothing that a change of underwear wouldn't sort out. The light was dim in this cellar, and I found myself drawn to a crack of light coming from the far wall. I walked over to it and started to feel my way along for an opening. I found none. Then the painful howl of some ferocious creature rang through the depths of the castle. I decided I no longer liked this place. Not that I liked it to start with. Time to leg it. I grew accustomed to the dark and could make out my prison cellar. It was a laundry of sorts. A large coop tub dominated the centre of the room, and heaps of white solid linen was piled up beside it. It was quite smelly down here, a smell of stale water and sweat. As I took in my surroundings, I saw a small black door at the far end and immediately made my way towards it. I pushed it, pulled it, and it opened with a creak. I walked out to the foot of a small winding stone staircase. Fucking hell. Up I climbed, my legs feeling tired and sore, till I came to a small landing which was overlooked by a stained glass window, sporting another happy little picture of a man in armour brandishing a pike with a head impaled on it. This is definitely not a happy either, I thought. More like hell. Oh no. No, that's daft thing to think. I better just get out of here. The rain seems to have stopped. Yeah, I'll get the hell out of here. The landing led on to a narrow corridor that seemed to lead into a black hole. I followed it for a while until it came to a T-junction. I took the left turn. As soon as I turned there, in front of me was a huge thing, all in black, carrying a large, what looked like a scythe. It was the Grim Reaper, the bloody Grim Reaper, standing now not more than 5 feet from me. "Run, you moron," my brain screamed at me, but those red burning eyes kept me frozen, paralysed. A foul smell overtook the air, and I threw up all over the Grim Reaper's shoes. I stayed bent over, looking at the vomit running over off his shoes, and thought, I'm in the shit now. You don't just go around puking over the Grim Reaper's shoes and get away with it. He raised his scythe over his head, let a shrill cry, turned and fled down the corridor until he disappeared. Funny that. 1 minute he's standing there about to kill me. Next he does a runner. What's going on? What is this place? Hold on. Shoes. The Grim Reaper was wearing shoes. Black shoes. That's a bit strange. A ghoul wearing Doc Martens. Puke flavoured. Oh well, I suppose he has to wear something on his feet. Off I went again, wandering around this vast stone wilderness looking for a way out. Here and there a torch burned which showed a door, and all locked from the other side. I was getting hungry. Just then a smell of homemade bread wafted up from the little stairway on my right. I walked over and made my way down. At the bottom was a large, spacious, well-lit kitchen. On the far wall stood a long double range. It looked quite modern in an old-fashioned way, more an 18th century thing rather than a castle type of a gizmo. A large loaf of bread stood on the rack, and I swiftly made my way over and took a huge lump of it and stuffed my face. It was gorgeous. I washed it down with a swig of fresh milk from a large stone jug. Feeling refreshed, I set off once more up the stone stairs. On reaching the top, I heard the flute playing again. I pricked up my ears and followed the sound. Down the dark corridors I walked, the music getting louder and nearer. Finally, I came to a large staircase that led down to a dining area. A roaring fire blazed, and beside it sat a small wee girl blowing her flute. I watched her as she fingered gently ran over the holes, as her fingers gently ran over the holes, making a delightful sound. I was just about to walk over to her when the far door opened and in walked the Grim Reaper. Beside him, the large shadowed man who I met earlier. Then they all noticed me. The girl put down her flute and turned to look at me. On seeing my face, I was shocked, for instead of having a face, she only had a mouth, no eyes, no nose, just a blank face with a large gaping mouth with fangs sticking from it. Then, while I was thinking of which way to run, a sliding noise came from directly under me. I turned slowly and saw what I can only explain as a human octopus slithering from a secret panel. My eyes darted to the staircase and I made a run for it. Too late. The creature grabbed me from behind and I knew I was doomed. "Let me go, you rotten bastard. Let me go." The Grim Reaper now stood in front of me. He towered over me. He banged the handle of his sign on the floor and spoke. "What the hell is all the shouting for, man? Are you on drugs? Fine thanks for us dragging you in out of the rain and fixing your hand." "Yeah," intervened the shadow, "and making me look a fool, talking to myself, thinking you were behind me." I couldn't get this together in my mind. What was going on? "Who are you? Where am I?" They all moved closer to me and the girl peeled her face off and threw it to the floor and then said, "Alton Towers Fun Park. Where did you bloody think you were?" There you go.